So welcome to today's Lunch and Learn, our Right Help, Right Time launch session. My name's Colleen Worrell. I'm one of the Education Safeguarding Leads at Staffordshire County Council, working with education safeguarding leads across the county. It's really great to see such a wide range of partners joining us today, including colleagues from police, children's social care, integrated front doors, Staffordshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership, family hubs, health, education, early years, and of course our wonderful charity and voluntary sector. This really is a multi-agency session. As we go through, I'll invite colleagues who are presenting to introduce themselves as they take over from the presentation. Can I ask that if you do have access to the presentation that you try not to click on the takeover button, that just helps make sure that the today's session goes smoothly. So, today's session, we will be covering understanding the Right Help, Right Time framework, how we recognise different levels of need, how this supports your decision making, how it strengthens partnership working. We'll also have a chance to look at the online interactive tool, which I'm particularly excited about. Now, this is a short session, not a deep dive, but it's designed to give all partners working with children a real clear overview. And we'll leave time at the end for questions. So, Right Help, Right Time Support Toolkit has now gone live as of the 1st of July 2026. It's important to say it's not a fixed document. It's a live resource and it will continue to evolve, and we will see more of this later. It will be reviewed and updated every 6 months, very much a work in progress, and will develop based on feedback and learning from practice. So we're really keen for you to get in touch with us and let us know what's happening on the ground. We want our document to reflect what's happening. So if you have any resources, tools or examples of good practice in your area, we really do welcome those, and you can share those via the SSCP communication email, which will pop into the chat for you. You will also see that the online referral form, MARF, multi-agency referral form, is already live. And alongside this, the Staffordshire Family Integrated Front Door contact team will be launched on the 21st of July. This is a bespoke multi-agency team designed to offer a single point of contact for advice, support and discussions, which Sean from the Integrated Front Door will talk us through in a little while. So, why the change? The move from the threshold framework to the Right Help, Right Time is really about creating clearer and more consistent pathway and shared language across all agencies. And importantly, this has been co-produced with partners across the system. So, Right Help, Right Time aligns with the latest statutory guidance, including Working Together 2026. It places a strong focus on early help, restorative practice and shared responsibility across agencies. That means there's a clear expectation that we're all working together earlier rather than waiting for issues to escalate. What's different with this framework is it sets out a much clearer continuum of need, helps practitioners recognise concerns as they emerge rather than waiting until something meets a fixed threshold, and supports earlier, more proportionate response. The framework is structured around 4 levels of need. At the lowest level, thriving, it's about universal support. The needs that most children will have met through everyday services like accessing education, health and community provisions. As the needs start to emerge, we move into early support, where children's families might need some additional coordinated support to prevent things from escalating. This is where we see strong practice and early intervention. Early help assessments may be used to coordinate this support. Beyond that, where the need is more complex, there is multiple concerns, then we move into enhanced support, where coordinated multi-agency support is required, and services are working more closely to manage risk and provide more intensive support. And then highest level of need, this is where significant harm or risk of harm, where statutory support is required, including social care involvement under the Children's Act. What's important is that the movement between these levels isn't fixed or linear. It's about responding to the child's needs at the point in time and stepping support up or down as those needs change. Alongside this, the new online MARF, multi-agency referral form, and interactive tool provides a clearer, more consistent way, bear with me 1 second, more consistent way to make referrals, helping practitioners share the right information and make more timely, informed decisions. It also moves us away from more rigid threshold thinking towards a more flexible, child-centred approach. So rather than asking, does this meet the criteria, we're asking, does the child and family needs right now? What do they need? And most importantly, it builds strength-based approach, recognising what already is working well for families and empower them as part of their support. Ultimately, this is about improving clarity for practitioners, making the system easier to navigate, and more importantly, improving outcomes for children and families by getting the right help in the right place at the right time. Vicky, hand over to you.
Col, am I saying to you, could you move the next slide, please? Is that all right?
Not a problem at all. I can do that for you.
Brilliant. I'm not being lazy, folks. So hi, my name's Vicky Hume. I'm the other education safeguarding lead in Staffordshire, and I work with Col and the rest of our team, small team in East Ass. Thanks, Col. Okay, so Col's introduced it brilliantly. It's underpinned by several core principles. These are and should be what we do already. Obviously seeing the importance and relevance of early intervention, noticing as soon as possible when circumstances may be changing for the child and family, or you just start to see that first sign of wobble or fracture in how life is going for everybody. Restorative practice, really important, working with families, not doing for or to them. But we must remember that restorative means high support with high challenge. And high challenge doesn't mean that we fall out about getting it right for children, but that we are confident to hold one another to account, striving for the same goals, as Col has already mentioned, using that strength-based approach in order to get it right for children and their families. And this also helps and supports their engagement when we are working in that restorative way. We obviously are looking at child-centred decision making. Sounds really easy, and however strong we are in practice, we often become adult focused. We're dealing with adults, having conversations with adults, and this can really direct what we do. So keeping the child at the centre of everything, understanding what life's like for them through their eyes, keeping in mind any trauma, additional need, neurodiversity, etc. Collaborative working fosters effective multi-agency partnerships and relationships, and that timely and proportionate information sharing is really essential for safeguarding. And us as practitioners are encouraged to identify and, as Col said, build on those family strengths. It's really important that we can do that and we're not just identifying where things are going wrong. The framework's designed to guide, not prescribe. It allows professional judgment to remain central. And as practitioners, we're expected to work holistically, listen to families, understand what it's like for them, and apply those respectful and informed decisions. These principles collectively drive positive change and improve outcomes for children and young people in Staffordshire. Thanks, Col. I'm not going to just read off the slide, but I think this is a really good one for kind of sharing with your teams. It sets out those 4 levels of children's needs, that everyone, when people are thriving, the odd bump in the road, but actually we can kind of pull things back from that. Moving on to number 2, that early support and early intervention. They may need some additional support, but it's easy to coordinate. 3 is where we start to see more complex needs and the need for targeted intervention. So that may be family help lead, practitioner, and a more coordinated plan. And then obviously, as Col's mentioned earlier, that statutory intervention. Each level is defined by specific indicators, expected service responses, and really helps. I feel like I'm repeating what Col said already, really, but that consistent approach. And that language that we all understand, really important for families. Thanks, Col. Okay, excuse me. This replaces the windscreen model. I think it's really visual. It's helpful for families and us as practitioners. Obviously, what we don't want to do, sometimes we can't help it, but what we don't want to do is families yo-yoing back and forth in and out of services. We want to be able to support families so that they can maintain that level for the rest of their time. But you can see there that it's very visual. What I like along the bottom is the prescriptors of who that involves and who's involved, and then the explanations along the different colours. Obviously, this will be shared, so you will be able to see this. Really good, again, for explaining to your teams. Any Anything else, Col, on that?
No, I think it, again, like you said, it's a real visual point of reference, and definitely something I think we're going to see up in every office across Staffordshire of those people working with children.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Laura Walford. I'm a family practitioner lead at the Integrated Front Door. So we're going to talk about tools that can assist us now in terms of looking at the right help, the right time. So first of all, we've got the early help assessment tool that any professional in Staffordshire can use. So it includes key questions to gather information about a family's needs and strengths, helping practitioners understand their situation and how it impacts the child or the children within that family. So it should be used when emerging concerns are identified and additional support may be needed, but before issues escalate to a higher level of intervention. So although Staffordshire have an assessment tool, you can use assessments from other services instead of completing an early help assessment, if they can be shared with partners working with the family, helping to avoid families having to retell their story. So the early help assessment templates can be used for single service response or a multi-agency response. So the assessment is child-centred and it's family-focused. So just to be really clear, an early help assessment is a really useful tool, but you don't always have to complete one. It's great practice if you can, because it helps build a full picture of the family. It brings services together and avoids families repeating their story. However, in reality, you might have already have the relevant information. Another assessment might already be in place, or the situation may need more immediate response. So what matters most is not the form, it's that the children's needs are understood, support is in place, and we work together with the family. So the key message is, don't delay support because you're waiting to complete an early help assessment. Use it where it adds value, not as a barrier. So at what level, I'm going to be asking sort of, what level do you feel that an early help assessment might be used? Sort of those levels that we looked at before, sort of 1, 2, 3, 4. If you can just pop in the chat where you think that might be used. Thank you, everyone. Obviously, we could, we've all sort of said level 2. We would be looking at sort of level 3, that sort of higher sort of targeted early help support as well. So if you haven't completed the early help assessment training, I would strongly advise you to book on this training. If someone can just pop the link to that training in the chat, that would be great. And anyone can access the early help assessment and supporting documentation. Again, we'll pop that link in the chat. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So a next tool that we can use as practitioners is the Grady Care Profile. So you can work with other agencies to complete this tool. So for an example, you might have a health visitor who completes home visit, but a setting might contribute to the rest. So where does the Grady Care Profile sit in right help, right time? So primarily it's used at level 2, which is your early support, but can also be used at level 3, enhanced support, where needs are more complex. So this helps inform professional judgment and decision making with the right help, right time framework. It can be used alongside the early help assessment. It supports shared understanding of need and progress over time, and it strengthens multi-agency planning and intervention. If you're unsure how to complete a Grady Care Profile or have not completed the training, you can complete the child neglect screening tool. So the screening tool should be used in all cases where neglect is suspected, and this will aid practitioners in deciding whether a graded care profile tool should be completed. The tool is intended for practitioners working with children and families and all partner agencies to quickly identify areas of concern which may indicate that a child or a young person is being neglected. So for more information about the graded care profile and to book on to the free training, then you can go to the SSCP website, and we can pop that link as well into the chat. Thank you. Come on to the next slide. So family hubs. So Family Hub referral provides support from pregnancy to 18 years old. So this is up to 25 with SEND needs. Support includes advice, groups, early years help, financial support and one-to-one support. So all this support is voluntary. Parents or carers can self-refer and professionals can contact Family Hubs directly for advice. So if we can just pop in the chat the link to the Family Hubs. So all the information will be found on there, and we've also got a link into referrals into the Family Hub. It is a great website. I find it really beneficial myself. So yeah, I would always encourage professionals to be using that just to see what's out there and the support needs for the family and if it can be met via the Family Hubs. Great, I'll pass you on to next. Is it Jude?
Yeah, we've got Jude up next. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Slight little technical errors there going on. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jude Russell. I'm the Development Officer with Staffordshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership. And I want to talk to you about the interactive online tool and the website that carries all of the Right Help, Right Time resources, which, as Colleen pointed out, is now live. So this is a really exciting time for everyone. Now, the interactive online tool is an easy to use digital tool that helps practitioners decide what support a child or family needs and when to act. It's based on the multi-agency Right Help, Right Time framework, providing a shared understanding of levels of need and that associated support. It guides users through the continuum of need from early help to specialist services, supporting consistent decision-making across all agencies. And it helps practitioners to identify concerns early and consider the child's lived experience. It helps you match needs to the right level of intervention and to decide next steps, including signposting early help or a referral, and it promotes a joined up child-centred approach, ensuring children and families receive the right support in the right place at that right time. It is designed to support and not replace professional judgment and multi-agency discussion. Now, the development of the tool has been supported by not only members of the working group, but all of our partner agencies in providing the essential indicators of need and that relevant pop-up information, which I'll show you in a moment. The tool is split into 4 sections: health and well-being, education and early years, family and environment, and social relationships and wider community. And each section highlights examples of indicators of need, and most of the indicators of need have those supplementary pop-ups that show you services, flowcharts, pathways, training, etc. for practitioners and also for the children and for families that you are working with. If I can take over, please, I'll share my screen just so you get a good look at this. So if you go to the website's SSCP website, you will find the Right Help, Right Time section. I'm hoping everybody can see that. On here, it gives you a really good overview of what is involved in this toolkit. It also includes a video that you can download and share with your colleagues of our delegated safeguarding partners, explaining their vision for right help, right time, and also some more information about where you can get further resources, including a poster from the Children of the Voice Project to put up in your workspaces. There are 4 buttons on here. I'm not going to go through them all today. You can actually access the framework that the ladies have been talking about this morning. You can go straight to the referral form, the multi-agency referral form, and you can download not just that poster, but also further resources that you can use. But if I show you very briefly the actual toolkit, and this is what it looks like. It represents the framework across the top with the 4 levels that we've been talking about and the 4 categories that I've just explained. If you open one of these categories, you will see a wealth of potential indicators of possible need. And within these, when I was talking about the pop-ups, you can see that each one, almost all of them, but not everyone, has further information about where you can find those services, that training, the pathways, the flowcharts, and these go throughout the entire document. Because it has been launched this week, what I can say is I would very much like you all to go away and start using this now at this very moment and sharing it with your colleagues, with your networks, so that we can get this out. Communications are coming out from all partners, including a newsletter next week from the partnership with more news of what's next. So thank you all.
Will somebody put the slides back up, please, for the scenarios? So my name's Julie Turner. I'm one of the senior safeguarding practitioners in the safeguarding team for Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust. So we do have 4 scenarios, real life scenarios that have been anonymised. And I want you just put in the chat box if Laura can just read them out, because I can't see the chat box, whether you think it's universal support, early help support, enhanced intervention or statutory action. So we've got scenario 1, which I'll just wait for it to get back on the screen. Yeah, so scenario 1, so we've got Billy, he's aged 3 years, 2 months, attends a private day nursery setting 4 days a week. Billy lives with his mum and 2 older siblings, aged 6 and 8. Family have recently moved into temporary accommodation following eviction due to rent arrears. Dad's no longer in the family home and has minimal contact. Mum's reporting she feels overwhelmed and she's got limited support networks. In relation to Billy, there's limited speech development delay and mum is not engaged with speech and language appointments. He comes to nursery in dirty clothes and smells strongly of urine and has a nappy rash. Attendance at nursery is irregular and mum states mornings are difficult to manage 3 children. Finances are difficult and there is reliance on food banks and living in temporary accommodation, reportedly to be overcrowded. Mum is tired and she's anxious, but she is described as caring. Where would you, I don't know if people want kind of start where they might start on this case, but, what information do we need and where do you think it sits on the threshold of need? Laura, are you okay? Look at the chat box.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
Okay, we've got a lot of level 3s, enhanced support, level 3. 1, 2, 3s. Immediate medical for nappy rash. 3s. Okay, I think that's about it.
Okay, so what we need to do is gather more information and actually build that full picture of Billy's lived experience, his development, care and family situation. Obviously, you'll have health visitors involved potentially as well. It says likely next steps. Obviously, we want that early supportive conversation with mum. Consider the early help assessment just to understand needs and coordinate that support. Involve other services, like I mentioned, health visitor, potentially housing, speech and language, the family hub, early years support. And then obviously if concerns persist, escalate if the basic care needs are not being met, potentially speak to your managers and then consider Staffordshire's integrated front door for advice or do the online referral. So it would start with an early help assessment. It's about working with mum and, you know, seeing what support can be offered to mum just to, you know, get her out of this situation. But obviously, if the concerns are escalating or, you know, it's like, I suppose, persistent, and then obviously that's when you'd ring the integrated front door. Okay, so we've got scenario 2. So this is a 12-year-old, attends a local secondary school in year 8, lives with mother, father and brother, but the details are unknown of the brother. A referral is received from school, and this morning child A was upset about his haircut and did not want to attend school. Child A and his mother had an argument, and child A shouted swear words and physically hit his mother. Child A has exhibited behavioural issues at school, including verbal aggression towards staff and physical behaviour towards other students. The school team has observed child A struggling to regulate his emotions and behaviour. There is no current support or early help in place, though the school has considered suggesting early help to the family. Mother is not aware of the referral being made into social care. So where do you think it might sit or what might need to be done for the next steps?
Family hub, early help level 2. Early help. Lots of 2s.
Okay, yeah, well, so kind of what should happen next? So the first step is, again, we need to gather more information. You know, what's happening in that family home? Let's get all them children's voices heard. We need that full family composition. You know, is this new behaviour or is the behaviour escalating? Is there any underlying needs that it could include mental health? Is there any family stress, special educational needs? Obviously, there's no support in place at the minute that we're aware of. So again, it's about starting that early support conversation with their family. You know, always work open and honest and transparent with the family and explain the concerns that obviously have been raised. Again, consider that early help assessment to coordinate that support. Involve school support, emotional well-being and the family hubs. And then again, if the behaviour escalates or the risk increases, like the violence at home, again, consider contacting the integrated front door for further advice. So scenario 3. So this is a 15-year-old child in an education setting, year 10, at a local secondary school, lives with mum, younger sister, age 8. So Child's B school have raised concerns regarding his welfare and possible exploitation. There's been a decline in Child B's attendance over the past 2 terms, with a number of unauthorised absences and is frequently late to school. Child B appears tired, has been observed falling asleep during lesson, is become withdrawn from staff and peers, is reluctant to discuss his activities outside of school. Child B is being seen collected from school by older males unknown to staff. And when questioned, is refused to identify these individuals and has become quite defensive. Mum is concerned that Child B has been staying out late, occasionally returning home during the early hours of the morning. So where do we, I think
Everybody's putting it as level 4 CE risk
Yeah.
screening tool and gather info to inform decision making.
Yes.
Screening tool.
So, you know, this scenario, it does have clear safeguarding concerns. And I guess everybody, because if they're saying level 4, we're all concerned about that possible exploitation risk. So again, you'd be contacting the Staffordshire integrated front door or making the referral online. Obviously, if, you know, there was immediate concerns, just make sure you ring it through. And again, you know, we don't know who are them unknown males. We're not sure, you know, the staying out late, the withdrawal, the behaviour change, you know, they are all signs of exploitation. So that would meet level 4 threshold. Okay. And then the last one, scenario 4. So this is a 4-year-old child who attends nursery 3 days a week or 3 mornings a week, lives with mum, mother's partner, younger sibling who's 18 months. Anonymous referral contacts Children's Services reporting concerns about Child C's welfare. Child C is frequently seen outside the home, unsupervised in the front garden, and as on occasions been observed near the road without an adult present. Regular shouting is heard from the property between the adults and states that the children can often be heard crying for prolonged periods. There is concerns about the condition of the home, reporting rubbish accumulating in the garden, and the property appears unclean. So where do we think this one would sit?
All child at risk of harm, 444.
Yeah, so there is multiple concerns here. We've got obviously the supervision concerns about, you know, the child being at the front near the road, home conditions, the emotional environment impact. So again, we need to gather, you know, what do we know about this family? Is there any previous concerns? What's the lived experience of the child? You know, so again, it would be I suppose there's some patterns of neglect that do build over time. So level 4, so it should go to the integrated front door. Thank you.
Okay, so Staffordshire's integrated front door. So you might be aware that we've changed our name. We were previously known as Staffordshire Children's Advice and Support Service, so SCAS. So I think we've been using Staffordshire Family Integrated Front Door for a while now. So if we can come on to the next slide, I can tell you obviously what this looks like. Staffordshire Families Integrated Front Door, it serves as a single point of contact for professionals and the public seeking advice, support or safeguarding services for children and families. So it's managed by Staffordshire Children's Service. It's a multi-agency team and it's collated at Lindham House with professionals from various safeguarding partner agencies. The integrated front door facilitates enhanced information gathering and sharing at the point of contact. So it enables informed decisions about presenting need and risk. It reviews professional referrals made via the online referral form for quality and consent, directing them to appropriate services. So the Staffordshire Families Integrated Front Door also provides telephone consultations for advice and triage, and ensuring that urgent child protection concerns receive immediate attention. So the integrated approach improves triage, response times and outcomes for vulnerable children. So what does the integrated front door look like? What does it consist of? So if we can just move on to, yeah, we're on the next slide. So it's structured to ensure that effective management and oversight of safeguarding referrals. So the team includes all of those that we can see in the table on the slide, and also we've got the emergency duty team. So as you can see, we've got made up of head of service, service manager, team managers, deputy managers, family practitioner leads, consultant social workers, advice support workers, and then obviously our partner agencies. So there are multiple partner agencies at the integrated front door. So we've got police teams, so sexual exploitation team, child protection team, missing persons team, disclosure and barring service, MOSAVER, which is the management of sexual offenders and violent offenders. We've got youth offending, adult safeguarding. We've also got our EPDOs as well, effective practice development officers. So we've got youth justice and also health. So lots of multi-agencies within that front door service. So the multi-agency disciplinary composition enables comprehensive assessment and decision making, ensuring that children and families receive the right support from the right professionals. So we've got a pod structure which further enhances consistency, clarities of roles and timely management oversight, supporting practitioners and developing high safeguarding interventions. And I think a big part of that is that actually having all those professionals in the front door, it's live. So we're dealing with referrals as they come in, and we can have those open conversations being based in the office and having all those professionals that we can have those discussions with. Come on to the next slide. So contacting the Staffordshire Families Integrated Front Door. So in terms of when we're looking at the right help, right time, so we would be looking at sort of in terms of the level 4 involvement, we are moving predominantly to an online service. So professionals won't be making referrals via the phone unless there's threshold for an immediate response, so your section 47s. But members of the public and parents can use that call line. It's also used for an advice line for professionals, but they won't be able to make a referral. They'll be directed to make an online referral. So almost everything will be done online. However, it's to be reminded that the online form isn't to be used for urgent inquiries such as section 47s, and that would be for the phones only. And then also for your level 3 involvement, so that sort of early help involvement, so online referral form would be completed. And as I said, any inquiries for parents, carers, members of the public, they can equally phone or use our online service. We've also got our education safeguarding advice service, so ESAS, and that's for education settings only. So we've got, obviously you'll be aware of sort of contact numbers and email addresses for ESAS. I'm not sure it's on the slide. So it might be worth popping that into the chat as well. And obviously in an emergency, we would always call 999. So opening times for Staffordshire Families Integrated Front Door is Monday to Thursday 9 till 5, and then Friday 9 till 4:30. So outside of these hours, it would be contacting the emergency duty team. So there would always be an expectation of partner agencies, and not just being reporters or detectors, but to be main players and enabling families to find resolutions. We need to move away from the perception of parents and carers as potential threats, rather than adults who are struggling and do not conform to the model of an ideal parent. So from the 21st of July, Staffordshire Families Integrated Front Door, the number will be changed at that point, and that will be communicated with everyone via comms. You can come on to the next slide. So information sharing and consent. This slide is really important because it is how we work with families, and it's not against them. So seeking consent isn't just a process, it's about respect, transparency, and building those relationships. So when families understand what is happening and why, they're more likely to engage, and we can achieve better outcomes for their children. So in Staffordshire, we actively seek consent wherever it is safe to do so. So this is because safeguarding is most effective when we are working in partnership with parents, carers and families. So building trust and honest relationships help families engage, understand the concerns and be part of the solution. So the right help, right time approach is strengths-based, restorative, which means we work with families, not doing to them. We have open and honest conversations. We involve them in the decisions about support. So from early support right through to child protection, we'll usually be working with parents and carers in gaining consent. So most families do agree to support and involvement when we are clear, honest and child-centred in our approach. So this aligns with our approach of early conversations, restorative practice and working alongside families to improve outcomes. So there might be occasions where we can't seek consent or that we can't wait for consent. So this is only when a child is at risk of harm. Seeking consent could increase the risk to the child, or it's not reasonable or safe to gain consent. So in these cases, safeguarding always must come first, and information can be shared without consent to protect a child. and we need to record those decisions clearly. Next slide, please. So effective information sharing is vital for safeguarding children and supporting families. Practitioners must share relevant information as early as possible when concerns arise, regardless of wherever issues are emerging or the child is already known to children's social care. So consent should be sought where appropriate, but information can and must be shared without consent if necessary to protect a child, or if seeking consent would increase risk. So decisions to share or not to share information must be recorded, including who the information was shared with and why. Families should be informed about information sharing unless this puts the child at risk. So we've got the Data Protection Act 2018 and GDPR, which provide a lawful basis for sharing personal and special category data for safeguarding purposes. So common myths such as the belief that consent is always required or that data protection laws prohibit sharing are addressed to ensure practitioners can act confidently and lawfully. Next slide, please. So there might be times where you might disagree with an outcome or a decision. So this is about how we manage those professional disagreements, and I think it is important that we do challenge those. So it is expected that we will get challenges from professionals. So in order to sort of challenge those decisions, we can use that escalation process. And it is ensuring that we keep the child central and we work together. So if we can just pop in the chat where you can find the escalation process. And then our next slide. So this is all about restorative practice. It is relationship and strength-based approach, and it's central to the right help, right time. So it involves working in partnership with parents, carers and families to meet needs safely and effectively. Professionals are encouraged to use restorative language, behaviours and tools to strengthen relationships, empower change and reduce dependency on professional services. So high challenge and high support are balanced to safeguard children while building resilience and capacity within families. Restorative practice underpins all interactions, ensuring that children and families are actively involved in decision making and supported to achieve positive outcomes. So I know many education settings have received the restorative practice training via the Staffordshire virtual schools. So if you are in an education setting who hasn't received this training yet, it is completely free, and contact can be made. I've got an email address if that can be popped into the chat. That would be great, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrea Stanton. I'm the Early Years Safeguarding Consultant for Staffordshire County Council. So we've just got a few more slides, but we're just going to look about what does this mean for practitioners with everything that you've just heard today. So it's about taking that action early. And earlier if possible, ensuring better quality referrals and building greater confidence in that decision making. And importantly, also reinforces shared responsibility, recognising that safeguarding is a collective effort across all agencies. And that's really one of the key messages. Can I have the next slide, please? So implications and next steps. So the introduction of the right help, right time brings several key expectations, and there's a stronger emphasis on having those earlier conversations with your families and improving that quality of referrals and feeling more confident in the decisions that we've made. We're asking you to, as practitioners, to be encouraged to make full use of that interactive right help, right time toolkit. Take part in any ongoing training that's coming and stay up to date with those key changes, including that, looking at that new online multi-agency referral form and any further developments with the contact centre that is coming on the 21st of July. At the heart of this is that shared responsibility and multi-agency collaboration. Talk to your neighbour, talk to that setting, that school, that voluntary sector that might also be involved in that family. There's a real focus on that continual improvement, learning and developing a culture of safeguarding excellence. We are encouraging everybody moving forward to familiarise themselves with the guidance, access the available training and actively contribute to this approach. Can I have the next slide, please? So, what we wanted to say is thank you for everybody attending, but we want you to take some real time to visit the Staffordshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership website and complete any of your relevant safeguarding training. The Integrated Front Door team would also like to invite anyone who is interested to come and see how the team operates. So if you would like to arrange that, we're going to pop a couple of emails into the chat, and please take that opportunity because it's really valuable to go and see how they all work together as that multi-agency. And now what we would like to do is open up to any questions, any reflections, anything that you might have. We're really grateful for you to pop those into the chat or open your mic to ask those.
I believe, Beverly, you've had your hand up for quite some time. Have you got a question for us? No, I think it's a legacy hand. So I think, Suzanne, if you'd like to come up.
Hi, can you hear me
Mine
okay?
was just a mistake.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Let me know when you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hear you.
Okay, fab. Can I just understand properly then, from what I've learned listening to all the information, we had the children's transformation back at the end of 21, beginning of 22. That was the first transformation. And at that time, the same information was coming forward, right, the right help, right time, having these restorative conversations, working collaboratively, I can't even say it, collaboratively with families. But all I can see is what's changed now is that, from my understanding, are you removing the contact centre? Are we moving to just doing these MARFs online because you removed the MARFs before and we weren't doing the MARFs? But now we're back to doing MARFs and we're only doing them online and you can't ring the contact centre. Are the contact centre going away? So you can't actually have those direct conversations with people who, do you know what I mean? So I just need to be clear about what's changed.
I'll answer that. So in terms of the contact centre, the contact centre isn't going away.
Okay.
What the expectation is, so you can call that line, but that would be for immediate safeguarding concerns, so your section 47s. You can call for advice, so professionals can call and ask for advice. So they might say, oh, I've got this and what do you think? And they can direct you. But if it's felt that a referral is needed, consideration for social work intervention or sort of early help FPS intervention, then they would be directed to fill out the MARF online at that point.
So we're moving to basically making referrals online, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that meant to be a good thing? I'm not meaning to be negative, but the first transformation didn't work. So is this one going to be any better? Because it honestly doesn't sound like it's going to be, if I'm honest.
And I think for me, obviously working at the front door, those marks, I think, and understanding that, you know, the right help, the right time, the expectation, the tools that we can use as professionals, that actually when we're getting those referrals, that we've got all that information, you know, and we're not having that brief information from that brief phone call. We've got all that information there ready for that child.
So then how are those online referrals going to be prioritised? Is it going to be in terms of time and date that it's come through? How are they going to be prioritised? Because they're going to be coming through, I would have thought, as thick and fast as they would have been on the phone. And let me just preface this by saying I worked for 9 years at First Response. So I know where you are, I know exactly how it goes on. And I want to understand better how this is going to be an improvement to children's services.
And like you said, it's within those, we have timescales to process work. So those that are coming through, and, you know, it'll come through via email in the inbox. They have 24 hours to process that contact, and that has to be managed. And if it's a social worker, so we prioritise referrals, so we will rate them. So we have, you know, there'll be some that will be marked as more urgent, which we have to deal with in 4 hours, others within 24 hours, and then a lower level ones within 72 hours. So we are working in very, very tight timescales.
Okay. Yep. We'll see how it goes this time. I don't honestly see how this is an improvement, though, to be honest.
And I think it's really important to say any feedback like that, if once we're up and running, everything's live, if you want to get in touch with ourselves and give us any of that feedback, this is about continuous improvement. We absolutely hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but the first transformation was meant to improve things and it didn't. So it's just, I just feel like if we're moving to online MARFs, I don't know that that's necessarily a great thing. That's just a personal opinion. That's having been working in this industry for 14 years. Yeah. That's having been at the front door in the MASH for 9 of those years, and going through, having been part of that first transformation, and now working in an educational setting for the last 4.5 years. It's like when you're working on the ground and you see how these changes affect practitioners on the front line, I think we're, you know, I'm just sharing an honest opinion.
No, thank you for that. And I'm happy to have a conversation outside of this meeting as well, if you'd like to talk about it further.
That's okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, next hand. Apologies, I've only got Cantrell on my screen.
Yeah, it's Suzanne.
Apologies. Hi, Suzanne.
I'm a probation officer. I've worked Staffordshire and West Midlands in the time I've been doing this job. Lately, I have grave concerns about the lack of involvement of probation when decisions are being made. For instance, before you mentioned agencies, probation wasn't even mentioned on the agencies. We take part in MAPPers, MARFs, MARICs, MASH, but we're still not involved and not considered by a lot of social workers. And I've had this problem recently with a MARF, kept getting sent back because I couldn't give the I hadn't spoken to the child. We don't speak to the children. However, we do work with the perpetrators, and sometimes we even work with victims of perpetrators when they've done something else. We also do risk assessments, and we have to assess that person's risk of harm, not just to the public, but to the people they're living with them. And that should be an important part of a engagement between all agencies. I guess my question at the end of this is, why are probation no longer being involved, and why don't social workers actually understand what probation staff do, including the fact that we cannot drop a diary at the drop of a hat when we get an email, as we have our own very, very extensive caseloads? Thank you.
I'll answer that. So in terms of, I do apologise if I didn't include probation within that, because that's been missed on my part. I can say from working at the front door, we absolutely do include probation. You know, part of my role that also I'm a consultant social worker. So those conversations are being held with probation. I don't know if you mean in terms of that front door process, or when social workers are working with families in area teams. Is it within the front door that's where your worries are, or is it within the sort of area teams?
The whole process. I just went to an ICPC not that long ago, and I wasn't even fetched in for the beginning of it. And then it was a complaint that probation wasn't there. I was sitting there for half an hour. It's like we've become the forgotten agency within safeguarding. Sorry, I was answering your question then.
That's fine. You know, obviously within the front door, you know, we are ensuring that we're involving, but we, you know, what we can do is I can feed that back into the team. That's not a problem. Just to ensure that everyone is being consistent with that, and hopefully that message can get out to the districts, and we can share that there as well.
Thank you.
Have we got any more questions?
There's quite a few questions in the chat. If anybody wants to answer any.
So there's apologies, my Teams is glitching at the moment, but what I can see is a question from Grace Webb. Can you clarify what the expectation on schools will be in terms of early help graded care profiles? Will the family practitioner remain the same? So from early help, we're already aware of the incredible work that goes on within education settings around early and earliest help. That will all continue as it does at the moment. There is still the expectation, if we've got those concerns around neglect, to consider the neglect screening tool. And if you've been trained in graded care profile 2, that you do complete those graded care profile 2. It's about gaining enough information. Do we have a full picture? What is it that we know about the child and the family? What don't we know about the child and the family? And is there any additional information that's required to ensure that the right help is at the right time? So in terms of answering your question, Grace, I think the expectation is pretty much very similar to what we do now. I think in terms of guidance and thresholds and that framework around all of that in aiding your decision making, it just helps strengthen that. And the interactive tool's there for you to use to kind of quiz and to see if there is anything else that either needs to be done or to be thought about, or if there are further questions that we need to be asking to get the full picture to decide what support that family or that child needs. I know it sounds like a bit of a wishy-washy answer, Grace. I hope I answered that for you. But by all means, do come back in touch with myself and Vicky if you've got any further questions on that. Thank you. Dawn, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, if we are in schools, if we are doing more of this earliest help, are we recording this anywhere? I'm just thinking, if I'm doing something in school with a family that's requiring quite a lot of support, and then there's a referral to you from somewhere else, how do you know that I've already opened this and I've got it kind of running in the background?
So in terms of what you're doing at schools, it's absolutely the same as what you do currently in terms of how you record on your chronologies within your safeguarding files, that you're making sure that you do have that up-to-date information. And then at the point of where you feel actually we need some additional support, we need some additional help, that's where you start considering those referrals, whether we're looking at your support from family practitioner services, or whether you actually need to look at a referral form through the MARF to statutory services level 4. So very similar to what you do now, but you've got more framework and more tools around you to support in that decision making. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what then if there's a referral to you from another agency, say, you know, a health visitor makes a referral, and they haven't spoke to us, but I've already got quite a bank of information, but I haven't referred it on as yet. How do they know that there's already something going on?
Yeah, so that's all about the information gathering, isn't it? And if we've got referrals coming through to other services, we'd expect them to contact schools to complete those lateral checks anyway. So we would hope that at that point is when the information would be shared and would be joined up. Because what we do know is information sharing is one of those areas that we need to get better at. We do need to do more of, but it's also really quite complex when you've got those worries and those concerns at the lower level where you're not making those referrals that time you're just doing that additional work. So I would expect as soon as it does start to kind of transpire that other services are being involved, that the school will then be contacted by those services to look at how we can all work together to provide the best support for the family and the child.
Okay, is that part of the process then? Because that doesn't necessarily happen now. So we might get called to a meeting, but we haven't realised that there'd already been like police involvement or something over the weekend, or it's just to bring all that information together.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you ever come across a scenario where that hasn't happened, please do get in contact with ESAS. We can support you with those conversations, or to find out really, if there is any information that hasn't been shared, why has it not been shared? So please do come back through to us and we can support you with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I've got a hand up from Samantha. Samantha Edwards, you've got your hand up. No, I'm gonna move on. Sam, if you can hear me, if you just pop something in the chat and I'll come back to you. Lucy Grice.
Hi, just wondered where agencies such as Malachi fit into this.
I don't know whether we've got anybody from our commission services to answer that question. No, I'm happy to answer that then. So yeah, the commission services are still in place. They still fit within the levels. So Malachi, I would expect to see them around level 2 to level 3. Again, it's not a kind of tiered system. It's a sliding continuum. So I would still expect them to be working towards that early help support area.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Colleen, we've got another question that was quite a way back, so I'll just read it out. It said, how is this message going to get to all heads and CEOs to ensure they understand how important the safeguarding team is in schools and the capacity to deal with everything is valued and time protected?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I have answered that one in the chat because I think it's a great question. Absolutely. Comms is regularly sent out to education settings through Education Safeguarding Advice Service, through our Tuesday emails, through the briefings that we deliver, and also through the Education Leaders Network meetings as well. But we are always happy for you to get in touch with us if you want to talk about this further, if you feel there's more information that needs to be shared. We're always happy to champion the amazing work that goes on in education settings. There's so much that happens that I think doesn't get seen because it's just what we do and what we do so well. So absolutely, if you feel like there's something that needs to be shared that's not being shared, get in touch and we'll happily support you with that.
Bob, thank you. And there's Sam who'd got a hand up, has put one in. A lot of our families are requesting respite and social care involvement due to child's additional needs and disabilities. What level does this sit at, and is this a MAR form or a integrated front door call?
I don't know if there's Laura, are you able to answer that one?
I think it's a difficult question because it varies so much. So we get a lot of these referrals, and it's totally dependent on need. We need to be using that screening tool, I think, to help us to decide which level that could potentially sit at. We have families coming through where there might be sort of some low level disability, and they're saying, "Oh, I need a disability social worker," but it doesn't meet that criteria. We can look at early help support. We can signpost. So I think it is totally dependent on need. It could fit within any of those levels. So I'm not sure that really answers the question, really. So I am sorry.
Thank you ever so much, Laura. And thank you ever so much, everybody that's joined today and everybody who's asked questions. I'm very mindful of the time, so I am going to wrap up today. A few of us will stay back at the end of this. So if you have got a question where others, maybe you want to just talk to us without others around, then please do just hang back. I'm more than happy to help you with those questions. Thank you so much for everybody who's put questions in the chat, who's responded to the scenarios earlier. Really great to have your engagement, and it's great to see so many colleagues from different areas of our partnership. Have a great weekend when it finally arrives, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.